here we are again. Another day, another moment. I don't really have anything specific to talk about, but there are things that have come across my mind, and perhaps we can delve together into them and try to extract some sort of a meaning that takes us perhaps closer to a truth, whatever it may be. The fascinating thing I find is about relationships between things, and in particular relationships between human beings. Why is it fascinating? Well, from the absolute's perspective, there is only one singular thing, and it is all completely and utterly alone. Yet, in the illusion that we see, and I say illusion without trying to qualify it, let's just accept for the moment that it is an illusion. It's fascinating that in the world of illusion, relationships between things, whether they be at the physical material level or at an environment level between different organisms, or at a societal level between human beings, they're quite a prominent part. They play a major role. And I can't help but think, is this the one that is that the thing that it feels is lacking? That everything in the world of illusion that's not that unity is filled with relationships of one sort or another. And even in chaos, when things are chaotic and there does not seem to be any order, everything interacts against everything else. And if you look at some of the fundamental forces of nature, electromagnetism, it's all about attraction and repulsion, the weak and the strong nuclear forces. And it also goes up the stack, it's from the base material up the stack to be, it sort of changes form and it becomes environmental interactions. The way that every organism interacts with another organisms. Sometimes there's symbiosis, sometimes there's conflict, and sometimes there's attraction. And if you move further up the stack and incorporate human societies into this picture, it's the same thing. If you look at nations and cultures, they all seem to be in this state of repulsion or attraction. And then if we zoom down into the societies within those societal nations or societies, we see there is also like either an attraction or repulsion or neutrality. And I can't help but think that it's the opposite of what, in my view, is reality. And I say my view of what reality is absolute unity. That there is nothing is divorced, attracted, pulled, repulsed, neutral in relation to anything else. It's all one thing. So where does these conflicts arise? Where do these repulsions arise? I mean, they're clearly there. If you look at the world, they're clearly there. But what is it that decides that this is a repulsion and it's a negative thing? Or this is an attraction, which is a positive thing, and this is neutrality? Who is it that decides all of these things? You know. And look at the attraction of the moon to the earth. The moon is bound by the gravitational pull of the earth. And it's locked into that relationship with the earth. And the planet Earth is locked into a relationship with the sun. But who's to say that this is a good or a bad thing? And this sort of plays at every level. At every level there is this. Everything is simultaneously in relationship with everything else. The only variable is to what degree, and whether it's a negative or a positive or a neutral. But everything is in a state of relationship, and nothing can actually come out or go into that relationship, because where else would it go? Where is there somewhere new to go to? Because it's only this what already is. So where is there something new that it can go into? And I think this is where the time factor comes in. As soon as you introduce time into it, then there is room now for movement from one moment to the next. And you can gradually say, okay, taking the example of the moon being in the relationship with the sun, the moon now has the possibility of escaping from Earth's gravitational pull. But it has to be done in minute steps. That it will take billions of years for the moon to escape from the Earth's gravitational pull. But at the same time, if you introduce the concept of time, then everything has to operate with the limitations of time. And that's where everything vibrates at a sort of a different level. And there is a perception of time passing at a different degree. Because if you look at geological time, for example, the movement of the Earth's crust across the surface of the planet, there's only centimeters of movements of whole continents. across years. So as soon as you introduce the concept of time, then it also gives freedom for things to operate at different levels of change within a certain period of time. But I think the most important thing is that what time gives us is the possibility of something other than what is. If there was no concept of time, then everything would remain as it is for eternity. And if everything remains the same for eternity, then everything would fade back into black or back into nothingness. And the human mind is conditioned in such a way that it's finely attuned to seeing change. Perception is attuned to seeing change. If there is no change, it's basically put into the background. And that background then melts away. I mean, notice that in your own experience. For the things that don't change, you are never paying attention to them. They only come into your attention when there is some sort of a change. Otherwise, they're faded back into the background. So change is something that's quite important, I think, from a human perspective. Now, I mean, what does it mean though? I guess in a way we can see it as a sort of a pointer. There's already enough there from all of the things that I've said for a discerning mind to say, okay, if you just take change out of the equation, the movement of time, and the movement of time is only determined by the things that you view as changing, and you see no change, what is it that you're going to melt back into? Back into that unity, I think. And this is where meditation comes in, right? When I say this is where meditation comes in, what I'm saying is that meditation is a mechanism of sorts that plays with this concept of, the movement of time in a way. So, but we can't actually start discussing that until we explain what meditation means. And here, this is just my interpretation from what I've learned, what I've understood, what meditation means. If you look at meditation, and let's just take, for example, Vipassana meditation. So Vipassana is a meditation technique that focuses attention primarily on the movement of breath within a specific region of the body, maybe your nostrils or what have you. And if you put your attention on that particular space, again, space, there's no location for it, but by that I mean whatever you relate to that place where that breathing is taking place, the movement of air. So you have a nose, And through your nostril is the movement of air. Goes in, comes out, goes in, comes out. Air. Now, if you were to solely focus on that, the background, the world sort of disappears, because all that exists is that singular vibration of the in and out breath and all of the little ripples that it causes in your mind. Because the ripples, and I'll give you an example of what a ripple is. A ripple in the movement of air is, for example, how that air feels against your nostrils and what tingly feeling you may get there. Or when you out breath, when the air moves, it sort of creates a different sensation. That's another ripple. So you observe this phenomenon taking place, but what you have really done is really basically narrow down time to the specific feelings that are related to breath that are taking place within your supposed body. And then a sort of a next stage comes along after you've been watching, because the mind is a very, I wouldn't say mind, but attention perhaps is the right word. Attention is very fickle. It cannot stay in one place. Its true nature is to constantly be moving. It's like a bee going from one flower to the next, like a butterfly going from one, fluttering from one flower to the next. So attention, when it's focused on one singular thing, dilates. Okay, dilate perhaps is not the right word, but attention, when it's focused on one particular thing, what it does is it concentrates your view of time changing based on the changes that you're observing. So what then happens is once the mind can only, it's like, attention, now it can only filter through from your in-breath and the sensation it causes to your out-breath and the sensation it causes. So it's frittering between these two separate states. Nothing else exists for you if you're properly meditating. Nothing else exists for you except that frittering that's taking place. And then what happens is the mind sort of like relaxes, because this attention mechanism can now be completely automated. It knows how to fritter between these two things, and that's it. And then, strangely, what happens is the attention sort of disappears. The attentional aspect sort of disappears. And what is attention? I mean, that's another very, very deep question. Attention, I think, in my view, is just, to say it's focus is just basically changing one word for another. Attention, focus, same thing, synonyms. Attention is the fixation upon a particular thing. And the more there is of different things, the greater is what you see. And when it's now only narrowed down on a particular thing, there's a possibility of actually, as the Buddha said, blowing out. By blowing out means that attention is very, very, I wouldn't say diluted, because diluted implies it's weak. What I'm saying is that the attention has very few things to actually focus on. So because it has so very few things to focus on, and that's where it's fixated, there's a possibility of it just blowing out. And when that blowing out occurs, what actually happens is now. You arrive at now. And you realize that the attention actually wasn't a sort of a narrow beam that was focusing on one thing at the exclusion of something else. All attention was just like a lens that focused something. I don't know. The seer to something. But when it's no longer there, you see that everything is made out of the same stuff. So there's no longer this sort of concentration of consciousness on a particular set of points. You realize that consciousness is actually everywhere, and that's everything. It's everything. So this vipassana meditation is a sort of a technique that takes you to a place where you can actually be rubbed out. You know, I mean, the importance is placed on a very small thing. Your breath could be a mantra in other traditions, whatever it may be. It just focuses attention somewhere until the attention itself gets wiped out, and boom, you're in the now. But strangely, I think the now is not actually, I mean, it's completeness, isn't it? Because if you were to take your attention mechanism away, that lens of you'll see things in this sort of a, it's the difference between diffuse light and focused light. Focused light goes through a lens. Diffused light goes through something that disperses light, right? But this thing is between the two. It's neither dispersion, neither focus. It's actually what it is. That's the only way you can say it is this. By saying, this. That's it. So the thing is, it's always this, right? It's always this, but there is some sort of activity that this seems to be taking place, where there is somebody who has attention and focus, and that orientates this being of from a center, and this center is what we call I, right? So I am the thing that is seeing that, this, etc., etc. So can you see how by the very mere fact of seeing there has to be a seer? There has to be a seer. You see, you cannot see without a seer. I mean, it's like, okay, it's a bit crude, but it's like seeing without eyes, hearing without ears. You see that there has, one implies the other. You see, but strangely, I think there's many depths to this, and I'm only even touching the very surface level, probably not even surface level, 10,000 feet view. So, I mean, the question to ask really, I feel, is, I mean, why is any of this important? Why is it important? Why is it important that we know these things? Why is it important we meditate? Why is it important that we try to discover who? And you know what? Where it boils down to? It boils down to a sense of a deep, deep, ingrained sense of lack. You see, and just like there has to be an eye for there to be seeing, just as there has to be an eye to have an eye. An eye to have an eye. That's a very good one. Just like that. Okay. Separation comes into being. You see, as soon as I isolate myself into a particular thing, then there's going to be lack. I'm going to feel lack. I am just basically one little being that's seeing this particular situation, and everything is separate from me. I'm isolated, and there goes, there begins your spiritual journey. And this sense of base separation, you can say it's almost as a result of seeing. As soon as you start seeing, you're going to feel the sense of separation, because they're actually flip sides of the same coin. Seeing requires a seer, and if there's a seer, then there is that which is seeing, and the one that's seeing, and boom. The feeling of separation, of lack, limitation, limitedness, it comes into being spontaneously, just like that. And it's thinking about it, I think it's quite ironic that it's this way. You see, you want to see, but as soon as you see, you're only one little part of the whole. One little part seeing you're only a little part seeing, and you're not seeing the whole, because there is you separated yourself from that seeing. I don't know what it means. I'm being honest here. I don't know what it means. Does it mean that because that if I need to basically feel wholeness, completeness, then there should be no seeing? Or is there some other sort of a middle ground where there can be seeing but no lack? I don't know. I can't answer that. I mean, I had fleeting glimpses of these things where there was a sense of completeness whilst they were seeing. And I've also had fleeting glimpses of where there was complete emptiness and only me. And these you can see they're both sort of dualistic, because in the former, when you're seeing and you're everything, it sort of feels like it's unity. And the other aspect, and I'll come back to this because I think this is probably the more important one. The other aspect of being, there is only me, but nothing else. There is only me. And even then there is a sort of a subtle, there is a me to separate out me and nothingness, me, I am nothingness. There is too much verbiage there, okay? So the truth doesn't require verbiage. If there's still verbiage, then it can't be the truth. So, but I did get a sort of a sense of that emptiness. And the sense was this. It was that there was no me, it was only this. And when I say this, not things, but just complete and utter emptiness, just this. But it was not emptiness either. Again, we play a lot of games. Well, yeah, we are the mind, so we are the ones that play the games. So, but it was wholeness at the same time. So emptiness and wholeness wrapped up in one. And no two. Boom. That's it. That's what it is. But, I'm also intrigued about the other aspect of it. About when there are things, but you feel there is no separation between you, the seer, and the seen. That you are both one things. I mean, that's another mind fuck. I mean, if you truly seen that, I mean, it's exhilarating. I tell you that much. I have sort of visions of it, and it's exhilarating because, I mean, it just feels like you're thirst for anything. All thirsts have been quenched, and you're in a complete state of satisfaction, fully satisfied, that there is nothing lacking, there is no need for anything anymore. But you still see it from the perspective of something, but that something is not there. In normal life, it's the same thing. You're seeing the same things, seeing the same universe, seeing it through the same eyes, hearing it through the same ears. But the problem is there is an intuitive me, I, the one that sees, that is, and that's a sort of an overlay story on top of what actually is. So, and again, this is something that that sort of implies that the overlay story is basically false, right? That the truth is, there is a degree of satisfaction. Not a degree, I mean, it's absolute satisfaction. It's absolute satisfaction is there when it's not seen through the filters of this me. You see what I'm saying? That this me is actually this filter that creates separation. It creates lack and want, and it's the thing that ruins everything. You know? That reality itself, if there was no me, this me is such a freaking, it's hard to, you can't find this me, okay? You're not going to find it. So you might as well stop looking. This me is the thing that creates, because as soon as you, it's like, it's right in front of you. You're seeing the truth already, but you're seeing it through this sort of ghostly gauze, or like a curtain of of some sort, and it colors your vision, and it introduces all sorts of other things that are actually not there. So, and which is the greater reality, that reality that you see when there is nothing, complete and utter emptiness, and you know that you exist, and that's all. Is that the absolute? Or is the reality this? The sun's shining, the birds chirping, there's green stuff, there's houses, whatever it is that you see, it's right in front of you, right now. Or is this the reality? And this this question, it's far above my pay grade, right? I can't even attempt to answer that. I get a sort of a sense of it. I can try to tell you what it sort of feels like, yeah. It has a feeling of eternity to it. It's like the sort of eternity that you may get a glimpse of when you see the waves from a massive ocean lapping up against land. They come in, they go out, they come in, they go out, right? And you know that there's something like this that can carry on for a very, very long time. And the seeing aspect of it, where you see the world, but not through a filtered sense of self, that is like the waves lapping up against the land, the ocean. You know that there is, this can continue, and there doesn't need to be anybody to see that. You see, that just only gives you a little bit of taste of that. It's eternal. It's like the Hindus, I think, or the Buddhists, I don't know which one, they use the word yatra. Yatra means a sort of a pilgrim, and it seems like an eternal pilgrim. Life seems to be sacred in the sense that it's an eternal pilgrim. This viewing without an eye is that eternal pilgrim. How things transition, all of this other bullshit about, sorry, I don't mean to say it in a disparaging way. When I say bullshit, what I mean is stuff that I haven't seen, okay? That's bullshit. If I haven't experienced it truly myself to know what it is, it's bullshit. It's you're in tray. Yeah, it needs some processing. So that's what I mean by it. I don't mean to disparage it. But there's sort of a sense of like a fathomless ocean and its wave lapping against an eternal shore for eternity is what I think is probably what actually all of this is. So to say that, okay, I know some teachers say, the only state is just I am and nothing else. I am, but I think this other aspect of it, where there's something happening and it's in a constant state, that's also equally true. And this is, I'm just trying to tie up these two things that I can't make absolute sense of, or at least explain. That one being eternally nothing, and the other being eternally something, but without there being somebody. You see, these two sort of states, right? Which one's more real? Which one's the right one? Which one's not? Which one's more reality? Which one's not? And the thing is, I truly don't know. I truly don't know which ones are. I suspect that, again, this is again duality. This is I'm created too, right? A state of nothingness and a state of everythingness, So again, that's the flip of the coin. So is there something beyond this where both aspects meet? The nothing becomes everything and the everything becomes nothingness. Is there such a thing, or is it an imagination? It's not even imagination, because you can't imagine how these dualities would collapse. And they don't collapse into nothing. You can't say, oh yeah, it's like basically nuclear fusion or fission, when these things combine, they annihilate each other and you're left with nothing. It's not even that. It can't be that. It's something far deeper. And I'm fairly, I would say fairly certain that is actually the case. But I can't say that I've seen it. I can't even speculate on it. It's something far beyond. It's like that chicken and egg situation, right? Which came first? You can't really answer that, right? The seed or the tree. It's like that. But it has an answer, but it's not an answer that is known. If anybody can articulate it, I guarantee you that it's not that. That's all I can say about it. It's not that. Anyway, I think that was it was what it was. Let's leave it at that. Just food for thought, with the view that this food would, internally combust into nothingness. Anyway, thank you.